Alright, welcome back to the Roblox course, and in this lecture we're going to talk about spawn locations. Now the spawn location is a type of it is an asset, so an instance that we can add into our workspace. If we press the little plus button here, you can see spawn location, and then this is going to be set down as this little platform, which you might have seen in some games already. And this we can then simply move, and the idea is that before, what happened was we spawned at 0, 0, 0, so, or not 0, 0, 0, but like 0, 10, 0, so we spawned in the sky and then fell down, but we spawned at 0, 0, and we can see if we spawn now, we actually spawn at this spawn location here, right? So with this type of object, we can actually make it so that our players spawn in a specific location, and then, you know, going from last time when we had this touch win, we can actually spawn here. Now, the big question that comes up is, well, what happens? So I can duplicate this, by the way, by selecting it, pressing Control D, or on Mac it would be Command D, and then I will duplicate something that I'm currently selecting, and then we can have a second one. And now the question that comes up a lot of times as well, what if I have two spawn locations in, and, you know, I've set up nothing on the properties. We're going to look at the properties soon enough, but right now I've set nothing up, and just like that, and, well, what happens now? Well, you could say, well, maybe what happens is that I'm always spawning in the first one. Nope, what's going to happen is if you have multiple spawn locations, then it will be randomly chosen. So if there are multiple spawn locations that are, let's say, eligible, so that I actually could spawn at, because there are some things that there are some properties that we can change, so that maybe one of them is not eligible for me, then, you know, it would change it, but as long as every spawn location is eligible, it would choose a random one, right? So as we can see, we've now spawned here, and if we spawn again, let's hope that the randomness blesses us. Well, it didn't bless us now, but let's just go in again. And now we were blessed because now we spawned at the other one, right? So this is the basic idea. If you have multiple spawn locations, they are chosen randomly. Now, if we take a look at the properties here, those are actually really important and interesting. So the appearance is just normal, data is just normal, and then behavior is just normal. But then we get to something called teams. Now, teams is something that is really interesting because this basically makes it so you can have different teams, right? So there is something called a team service, which we can use in order to basically separate our players in teams. And if we can, for example, say allow team change on touch, and what happens then is that as soon as the player touches this specific spawn location, then it would of course change the player. And the neutral in this case simply means exactly this, that any player can spawn at this location regardless of their team, and this is the default way that this is set up. And then you have a team color, which right now is just medium stone gray, and this is something that would need to be set once the when you actually use the game, right? So yeah, there's also a force field that is activated when you spawn in there, which you can set the duration of. And there's also just the part that we've already seen, but that's not important for the spawn location itself. So those are the interesting ones here, the team. You can, of course, also hover over this and see the example here as well. So for the force field, is there a description? I guess there's no tooltip there. That's a real shame. Anyway, so what I wanted to also say is that when it comes to the teams, because we haven't yet touched on the services yet, this is something we're going to look at in a later lecture, because there are still one or two things that we need as a groundwork. I just wanted to set this up as a sort of introduction to the spawn location, that first of all, if you have multiple ones, they're going to be random, and if they're set to neutral, that's also important. And yeah, we're going to see in a future lecture how this might work with different teams, for example, or with also changing it on touch. Right, so that was it for the spawn location. Just a short little lecture on that, and yeah, if there are any questions, of course, feel free to ask and I'll be sure to respond. And yeah.